All right. Hello and welcome to Just Animals podcast. I'm Elle, and with me as always is my dad, aka Guy,
Hello, Pod World.
and then Sam the zookeeper.
Hi, everyone.
And we have a very special day, special
Date.
guest. A special date. It is a special date because we have the one and only Dr. Fudge from Chapman University on with us today to discuss probably one of the most fascinating fish, right? It's correct to call them a fish, correct?
Well, technically, there's no such thing as a fish, but that's another story.
Ooh, I want to
okay.
hear that. I got to hear that.
Now he's just blown our minds. Not even a minute in to today's episode. So thank you, Dr. Fudge. Go ahead, introduce yourself. You can tell our listeners who you are and what you do and all that good stuff.
So yeah, I'm Doug Fudge. I'm a professor of biology at Chapman University, and I study mostly the biology of hagfishes.
Which is technically not a fish because there are technically no fish, as we just learned.
I can't wait to hear
Yeah.
Well, it looks like an eel, but...
Okay, so yes, the hagfish. Does that bother you that it has that misnomer of slime eel when it's not an eel?
There's a lot of fish out there that have common names that have the word eel in them that are not eels. So the eel-shaped body is something that's evolved many, many times. And so hagfishes are one group. The true eels are a type of bony fish that are the true eels, but then there's lots of other animals that have evolved the long, skinny body type. And sometimes they're called eels.
Okay.
Erroneously.
Yes. Okay. All right. So perfect. Thank you so much. So I was kind of got conflicting info, but there's 76 different species of hagfish. Is that correct? Or is that a plus or minus 5 situation?
So there's 87 now.
Okay. So that's plus 11.
Yeah. And the reason I know that is because we just published a paper describing 4 new species.
No kidding.
Yeah. And
now, is this your recent research? Because I know when I was emailing with you back over the summer, you were heading out to a field study, I think in July. Did you discover some of these then?
No, that was on the east coast of the U.S. The new species are Galapagos species.
Ooh. I wouldn't mind going there.
Favorite places.
I'd be like, sorry, have to go study the Galapagos hagfish. I'll be back in a year. Thanks.
Yeah, we're already planning how to get back there. So.
Oh, awesome! That is so cool. Well, if you go, let us know. We'll be your equipment crew. So yes,
well, you know what? I'm just reading this here. I didn't realize hagfish had secret weapons, but we'll get to that, I'm sure.
Yeah, Dr. Fudge is the literal expert on this. We have the guy, the hagfish guy, on today. So I was I'll let you take it away with their Greek name, but I can't talk today. Jesus Christ. Yeah, so I'll let you take it away, Dr. Fudge, with their Greek name or scientific name.
So the species that we decided to talk about today is the Pacific hagfish, and the species name for that is Eptatretus stoutii.
And what does that mean?
So stoutii probably just refers to the fact that they're not the most long, skinny hagfish. They're a little bit on the stout side, although there are more stout hagfish than them. And then the genus Eptatretus literally means 7 pores, and that refers to the number of gill apertures that they have.
Okay.
Unfortunately, Eptatretus stoutii does not have 7 gill pores on its side, and that's a long taxonomic story that goes back hundreds of years. But there's 2 main genera within the hagfishes. There's Myxini, which the Atlantic hagfish is one, Myxini glutinosa, and it has 2 pores, one on each side, and all of the Myxini members have only 2 gill pores. And then everyone in Eptatretus has multiple gill pores, usually 5 to 12, depending on the species. So Eptatretus stoutii actually has 12 gill pouches and pores on each side of its body.
No kidding.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Okay, I have a question. So these things...
Don't call them things, Sam. They're fish. They're hagfish.
No. I think they're adorable because I don't know. I think all animals are adorable. But
also true.
They don't have eyes.
They kind of do have eyes.
Don't they have you just can't
see.
Yeah, no, Dr. Fudge, because he's mentioned it almost every time there's an article about hagfish, there's a quote from Dr. Fudge, which is what I found, which was pretty awesome to read. Because it's like, hey, we're talking to him. He's coming on the show. That's pretty cool. Which also the links the links to those articles will be in the episode description. But speaking of their eyes, there's this new study that was done or that found that like their vestigial eyes might actually like be the key to like how human eyes evolved or something like that, and they actually share very similar structures. Do I have that correct?
I haven't seen that paper, but people are interested in hagfish eyes because their hagfishes have been around for probably 400 million years. Like we have a fossil from 330 million years ago.
Wow.
But the chances are that they were around for a long time before that.
Right.
So they do have eyes.
Yes, they have like these little eye slits is what I saw. But yes,
yeah, so it depends on the species. So Myxine glutinosa or Myxine limosa, which is the other Atlantic species, they have eyes, but to see them, you have to dissect the skin away to see them. So they're like vestigial eyes.
Okay.
So they're clearly eyes, but it's not clear whether any light reaches them because there's basically opaque skin over them.
Oh,
okay. So how deep in the ocean are these things? Are these adorable animals? How deep do they go?
It depends on the species. So there's a Japanese species called the inshore hagfish, which is probably the shallowest one, and people can scuba dive and see those, 10 meters or something like that.
Oh, wow.
The deepest ones have been recorded at 2,700 meters.
Can you translate that to feet for some of us?
So, one
approximately a yard.
Yeah, 1,000 meters is a kilometer, right? Which is 0.62 of a mile. So that's deep.
I was gonna say that's pretty deep.
Yeah,
that's a lot.
So I have a question. Are you you're okay with that? Be asking a question, Sam? You're good. I mean, you got your questions.
No. I got my answer. I got my answer about the eyes and how deep they go. Yep.
Fish, hagfish, look like they have similar. They have like little horns, or I don't know what you call it, but, like a catfish, like a cat. So are they?
Yes, they have horns, Dad.
Barbels.
Perfect.
Barbels? Is that what it's called?
Yeah, we call them barbels. Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you for educating me. I didn't know what the nomenclature of that was. Does that have anything to do with their sensory vision, or I mean, not with vision like we see with eyes, but feeling around?
Is that how they see, quote unquote? You know how like things see with echolocation or whatever.
Yeah, so they don't have echolocation, and they don't have sight really to speak of. They are photosensitive, like we know that they'll respond to light.
Interesting.
And we see that in our tanks, but they don't see images with their eyes. The barbels are chemosensory, so they use them to. Well, they're also tactile, but they're also chemosensory, and they have an incredible sense of smell. So
really,
they're scavengers, they're really good at scavenging. So you drop something to the bottom of the ocean, chances are a hagfish will be one of the first things that shows up.
No.
So does that mean they'll eat just about anything? Like any?
They're not
picky?
They're not picky, no. Like they'll eat dead whales, they'll eat rotten whatever falls to the bottom.
Good.
Oh, so
Good.
Hey, Dad.
Somebody needs to recycle.
Right. When it's finally your time, how about we just, give you to the hagfish? How about that?
I think I live with a hagfish, but that's a different hag.
Apparently, burial at sea is having a bit of a resurgence, and
is it really?
I like to remind people that if you're going to do that, you're basically making a date with hagfish.
Cool. That's cool, though. I mean,
yeah, that is.
Yeah,
that's
they'll be the ones who take care of you.
Are they like the ocean's vultures?
Yeah, are they the clean
vultures of the ocean?
They're also predatory. They'll go after live prey as well. So they're very opportunistic.
Okay.
Okay, so you're going to have to help me with this thing. I'm reading something I'm on Wikipedia. It says hagfish.
Why are you on Wikipedia?
Have no true fins. They have 6 to 8 barbels, which we now know what those barbels are.
8 barbels, yeah.
Yeah, around their mouth, and a single nostril. Instead of vertically articulating jaws like, I don't know how to pronounce this word, Gnathomastia?
Yeah, gnathostomes, yeah.
Gnathostomes, vertebrates with jaws. They have a pair of horizontally moving structures with tooth-like projections for pulling food off. The mouth of a hagfish has 2 pairs of horny, comb-shaped teeth on a cartilaginous plate that protracts and retracts. These teeth are used to grasp food and
Are
draw
those the rasps at the end of its tongue? I like how you're reading to the hagfish expert. That's great.
I'm just because I don't understand what I'm reading. I wanted him to explain.
Not like one of his
I'm
papers.
glad you guys do your research
Wikipedia
before
page.
these.
Yeah, well, I do it on the fly.
We don't tell Guy what we're doing.
I don't know what the thing is, which animal it is
like
we're
to surprise
doing.
Guy.
Right. He has to be kept in the dark. Yes. He has to be kept in the dark.
5 steps behind.
Really doing your homework here.
Try to catch up here.
It's entertainment for us to watch him.
So yeah, that's true. So most vertebrates have vertical jaws that close like this.
Right.
And hagfish, for a long time, they were classified as jawless fishes, along with the lampreys. So do you know what a lamprey is? They're the ones with the kind of sucker disc for a mouth. And the really kind of scary conical teeth, and they suck themselves onto larger fish and parasitize them.
Oh, great.
Okay.
And hagfish don't have that. They have something that looks a little bit like that, but they do have jaws. They're just not, they didn't evolve the same way as our jaws. And so what they do is they kind of flare these keratinous teeth out. They press them against what they want to eat, and then they pull it in with force, and that kind of either tears the food or just sucks it in.
So they don't swim around sucked to like other things as parasites, not like a lamprey.
No.
Okay.
No, never.
Yeah. Not like a lamprey or a remora that's kind of like hanging out on the bottom of a whale or a shark.
No, not like a remora either. No.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a really cool picture. If you, so I Googled it a long time ago, but there's a really cool picture that you can find if you just Google hagfish. It's a couple of pictures down in the images, and they have a picture of the mouth open, like, like that. And it's intimidating. It's definitely alien. It's definitely
that's rare that you'll see them with their jaws flared out like that, because usually they just do that and then very quickly pull them back in.
Oh.
Yeah.
So for that image, that was probably a dead hagfish that they kind of squeezed the head to expose the jaws.
Okay.
That's cool. Poor hagfish. I bet they get a lot of bad press.
They probably do get bad press. But speaking of their non-existent fins, I did read that they do have like a primitive tail fin. Oh my God, I can't talk. Primitive tail fin, and it's actually like pretty useless, and it's not really used for propulsion or anything. It's just kind of there, and that they have a dorsal fin fold. So are they just kind of a fish that's like, these little folds are good. We don't need a full-on tail fin. This is good. Evolution's going to stop here with you.
So yeah, I mean they're eel shaped, right? So evolution has pushed them in this direction of being long and skinny,
right?
And if you look at a true eel, like a bony fish eel, I can't really imagine their tail very clearly, but they use their entire body for propulsion.
Right.
So when they're moving through the water, they're passing waves of bending down their body, and that's how they're generating thrust to swim. And that long, skinny body shape allows them to be highly maneuverable and go in and out of crevices and coral reefs and burrow into the sediment, that sort of thing. Okay. So I wouldn't characterize it as they never had the wits to evolve a tail.
Right.
It's that's the kind of eel way of swimming, is to use the entire body.
Yeah, okay. They don't need it.
Yeah. No, I mean, when you're a long tube, that just kind of, I would imagine.
I have a question. So we don't have to talk about this if you don't want to, if it's a big, long thing. Fish. What do you mean there's nothing?
Yeah.
There's no such thing as fish.
Like the Cliff Notes version of that?
I'm like, if it gets too into it, then you don't have to go into it. And we can, I can figure it out on Google. But
well, there's a great book that
interesting.
just came out called "Why Fish Don't Exist." Have you heard of this?
Is this like
No.
Birds Aren't Real?
Oh no, you guys should read this. It's by Lulu Miller, who's a great podcaster involved with Radiolab for a long time.
There it is.
Oh, got it.
Oh yeah, I love Radiolab.
And she explains very clearly why fish don't exist. That's not the point of the book. The book is about a infamous ichthyologist who has a very checkered past. But I won't spoil that.
Okay.
Oh,
anyway, the 30-second explanation is that if fish did exist, we would have to include all vertebrates as fish. Right. So the way that we do,
I get it. Yep.
And we are vertebrates, so like we are therefore fish.
No kidding.
So if you say that, you know, hagfishes, lampreys, sharks, rays, bony fishes, those are the fish, and then you go and you look at the family tree of how all those things are related to each other, you realize you're just arbitrarily leaving off all of the branches that came off of the lobe-finned fishes, which are like the coelacanths, and their ancestors, which are the ones that gave rise to us, and all the other vertebrates. So it's just
no kidding.
Phylogenetically, evolutionarily, just doesn't add up to say these animals should all be grouped together, because either you include the other vertebrates or you don't.
Oh, okay.
Well, is there some other test for fish, like you need gills, or are there other things where people would classify this animal? Okay, it has gills, we're going to call it a fish, or put it in the fish family, or that's not the be all?
Well, so the way that taxonomy works now with this evolutionary basis is not whether you have gills now; it's whether you belong to a group that had gills in the past, right? So,
okay.
So like in the case of hagfishes, there's a controversy about whether they're vertebrates or not, and they don't have vertebrae now, but it is possible that they are vertebrates, and the reason for that is that they might have lost their vertebrae when they adopted this kind of burrowing lifestyle, where vertebrae would have actually been, would have hindered their lifestyle instead of helping a disadvantage. So just because you lose something doesn't mean you're kicked out of that taxonomic group. So like we have gills as embryos.
That's right.
And then they go away as we develop.
We are all fish. We are all fish.
Thank
you,
Dr.
Fudge. We are all fish.
Yeah, I was going to say we are
Dr.
fish.
Fudge.
Okay, can I ask another question? Sorry, I got all the questions. I just want to know how you got into hagfish specifically.
Oh, that was my first question too.
What a weird.
Great.
Except for that, it's attractive because it's so incredibly, awesomely weird. But like, how did you get into hagfish? How did you become a hagfish expert?
The hagfish guy.
Right. Yeah. So there's a lot of just chance in these things. I didn't grow up thinking I want to be a hagfish expert. I was obsessed with marine biology, and I loved fish and was obsessed with fish. But you don't catch hagfish on hook and line, and so I never saw a hagfish, even though I fished a lot with my father. I saw my first hagfish when I went to a place called the Shoals Marine Lab, which is on the east coast of the U.S. It's on an island in a place called the Isles of Shoals. It's run by Cornell and UNH. And I was fortunate I was in a teacher education program, and they sent all of us out there to take this great course. And there were two people out there who were hagfish researchers. They were actively doing hagfish research. And so they took us out on a hagfishing trip, and they put down these traps baited with rotten fish, and they pulled up these amazing animals, and there was gallons of slime dripping out of these traps. And so I was amazed by that. But so that was my first exposure to them. And then I actually did a master's in fish physiology, but I worked on tuna, bluefin tuna, because that was a species that I was obsessed with as a kid growing up. And then I was going to continue working on tuna for my PhD, and for various reasons decided not to do that, and ended up in a lab in Vancouver at the University of British Columbia that I found really interesting, that was doing kind of biomaterials research. So looking at materials that organisms make from a kind of material science point of view. Yeah. And so spider silk and things like that were the things that were being looked at in that lab.
What about silk from silkworms?
So is that where we're going to transition to, or segue to slime?
We're going to get to the slime.
Yeah.
Give me one thing.
Yeah.
We're going to do slime. We're going to do slime.
So my supervisor had just an amazing career of studying spider silk and whale arteries and horse hooves and slug slime and just like the coolest projects and materials. And I somehow decided I was going to work on squid, which he had other students work on squid. And I was about a month in to my program, and my supervisor, his name was John Gosline, came, I think he was running into the lab and said, "You can't work on squid." And I was like, "What? What do you mean?"
Your project is over.
He said, "It's an El Nino year." This was 1997. And the squid aren't going to show up.
Oh.
And he was right, because this had happened to a previous student of his who was working on squid. The squid didn't show up during an El Nino, and he lost an entire year, and he had to switch to jellyfish and blah, blah, blah.
Oh, no.
So I was like, okay, I guess I have to switch. So I gave myself 1 month to spend in the library just reading stuff. And I remembered hagfish, so I started reading about hagfish, and the hagfish just kept rising to the top of the list for many reasons, but the slime in particular was really intriguing. And so my supervisor had worked on slug slime, he had worked on spider silk, and he had worked on keratins like horsehoof, and all three of those things have major connections with hagfish slime. And so it wasn't difficult to convince my supervisor that he needed to get in the slime business again.
Yeah, I saw this really good show on PBS about hagfish slime fabric, like making things out of their slime. Yeah, it was really. I love PBS, but yeah, it was just this really cool show. But that's all. That's how I've heard about hagfish.
That's based on our work.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Dr. Fudge.
That's really cool. Really cool work.
So it's slugfish, not slug. Jeez, it's slug slime and hagfish slime. Are they at all related? Do they have any are they made up of any similar components or anything? Or are they
not really. We still don't know exactly what the composition is of the mucus part of hagfish slime. Believe it or not, we're working on that right now. But it's almost certainly glycoprotein. So these are protein molecules that have lots of carbohydrate stuck on them.
Okay.
And that's what most mucus is made of.
Right.
So yeah, but very different material properties. Like slug slime is very sticky and adhesive, and hagfish slime is not like that.
So
wait, okay. I just realized we never told anybody why they slime.
Right. No, before
are we getting to that?
Okay. Yeah, we're gonna get to all that. Question: what's the largest? Give us the stats on the largest hagfish you've held or come in contact with.
So I've spent some time at the Scripps Institute of Oceanography down in La Jolla, near San Diego.
I used to live there. Yeah. I used to go there.
Yes, La Jolla.
Place. And they have an incredible fish collection, if fish existed.
I know, right?
And they actually have probably the best hagfish collection in the world. So I think they have something like 55 species.
Well, now we need to go
in their collection. Yeah,
you do need to go to Scripps. I went when I lived in San Diego. It's amazing.
It's really
amazing.
An amazing place.
Probably one of the best places I've been in my
Do
life.
they allow the public in here?
Mm-hmm. You can go in there. Well, I did.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know about the fish collection, but
I don't think you can see. You're right. I don't think you can see like the private fish
Dr.
collection.
Fudge. He sent us there for research. Show us your
We're just gonna
hagfish. Thanks.
throw your name around.
Yeah,
We'll get in.
Throw my name around.
Yeah.
No, they're thrilled to have people interested in what they do.
Yeah.
So we did a project recently where we were looking at the effect of body size in hagfish on the size of the structures that make up the slime. And so it's kind of a long story, but there's these silk-like threads that reinforce the slime. And those are produced within these specialized cells called thread cells. And we actually found some evidence that larger hagfish have larger thread cells. So they make bigger silk fibers, which doesn't sound that crazy, but that's not usually how cells work. And I'm realizing I shouldn't be talking about this because it's embargoed, and the paper is coming out within a couple of days.
Let's not talk about it.
Get in trouble.
Let's wait for the paper.
Can it come? Can we talk about this after the paper comes out? Because this won't come out until like 2 weeks from now.
Okay, that's probably fine. I think it comes out on the 20th.
Okay.
So,
don't worry. We won't publish. We won't publish this till the end of the month.
Okay, good.
If you pay us.
So anyway, we needed to look at these cells from little itty bitty hagfish and the biggest hagfish we could find. Unfortunately, Scripps has some really big hagfish in jars preserved, and so the biggest hagfish I got to hold was probably over 2 feet long.
No kidding.
Maybe even closer. No, actually closer to a meter. So about 3 feet long, and just like hefty? Massive, and probably about that thick around.
Oh, so like a plumbing pipe almost.
Yeah, like big plumbing pipe.
No kidding. So can they still slime even after they're dead? If not to be morbid, but like dead hagfish. Oh, I still got slimed.
Well, when they're fixed, in preservative, they don't really slime. But we figured out a way to extract the cells that we were interested in, and amazingly, they were preserved well enough that we could measure their size.
No kidding.
Yeah.
All right, so tell us all about the slime. What's the purpose of it? I've read, some of its defense mechanisms, some of it's also for eating purposes, and then that it can just expand to like 10,000 times its size. And part of that, they're thinking maybe because of the water helping it expand. I could be completely off base on this, but I mean, just the properties of it and its purpose are just phenomenal. It's this multi-purpose slime or mucus or goo or whatever you would like to, whatever the technical term is for it. It's quite fascinating. The slime itself.
I think there's some industrial purposes of the slime as well. Is that correct, Dr. Fudge?
Yeah. So we've been working with some industrial and military collaborators on making sort of synthetic versions of the slime.
Interesting. For some kind of hagfish slime bomb? Is that what we're getting at?
No,
here?
it's hagfish stealth armor is what it is. I'm just kidding, Dr. Fudge.
No, maybe, so we've been working with the U.S. Navy on. They have a project where they're trying to figure out a way to stop boats in a way that's kind of eco-friendly and reversible, and so the idea is, can you put something like hagfish slime in the water? It wraps around the propeller, and then the propeller keeps turning, so the motor doesn't burn out, but the boat can't move because it's kind of
that would be awesome.
Not generating thrust anymore.
That's such a good idea.
Interesting.
Oh, I hope that happens. I want to see that.
The tactical hagfish
that's pretty
slime.
Freaky.
Tactical slime. Tactical slime.
Yeah. So that's not.
That's
I'm
how
allowed
crazy
to
that slime
say
is.
that, but no more because
Okay.
Yeah.
it's not
I figure it out.
But
Dr. Fudge, if some guys in suits show up at all of our houses tomorrow, we're all going to be very upset with you and throw you under the bus. I'm telling you now.
They're gonna impound your computer because it's got the recording on it, so they don't want to get out.
I know. It's okay. We'll just all come down to Chapman and see you. It's fine.
Well,
okay, I'll call them and.
I'll tell you. I had a sailboat and we were anchored, and somehow or other my anchor line got wrapped around the prop, and we had to call a diver. So it's a pain in the ass. I got to just tell you, the water was too cold for me to go into, and it was at night, and you're just waiting for a diver to show up. But if for anybody that has a boat, when you don't have power, it's bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
Okay, so you asked about the function of the slime. What does it do?
Right.
Yeah.
So the primary function, and there's lots of functions that have been proposed over the years, but I think the primary function is defense. So, and the reason I say that is we now have videos. There was an amazing paper that was published in 2011 by some colleagues of mine in New Zealand, and they got some video at depth of hagfish coming into their bait, and they've got cameras and lights. And as I said before, you put bait on the bottom, hagfish show up usually. But what was interesting about their study which was a biodiversity study, they just wanted to see what was there. Other predators almost always show up.
Right.
And you've got, like a shark coming in to sniff the bait. And if there's a big juicy hagfish next to it, sometimes that shark will take a bite of the hagfish instead of the bait.
Ah, yes, swimming sausage. Perfect.
So how does the mucus impact the shark?
Let him finish. He's probably getting there.
So in that study, they had video from, I believe it was 9 different species of fish, and all of them were completely unsuccessful at eating the hagfish. And
kidding.
And what you see on these videos is how the slime is thwarting those predators so effectively. So there's one amazing video of a kite fin shark comes up, bites the hagfish, and then kind of recoils in horror. And the hagfish kind of writhes away, totally unhurt. And the hagfish is seen swimming away, kind of gagging with a large mass of this slime kind of hanging out of its mouth, even streaming out of its gills. So what they're doing is they're releasing this stuff out of their slime glands, and they have many, many slime glands, like just in a regular pattern down the side of their body. So the Pacific hagfish we were talking about has 150 slime glands. And there's muscle around each gland, and when they squeeze down with that muscle, it ejects a little bit of this, what we call exudate, into the water, and then that mixes with the seawater. It expands 10,000-fold in a process we don't fully understand, but are studying very intently. And all of this happens in a fraction of a second. So 100 to 400 milliseconds, it's over.
So is it choking the prey, the predator? Is that what's happening?
So, well, it's suffocating them.
Yeah.
So, a shark breathes with its gills, right, by irrigating its gills with water. And if you put something on the gills and water can't get through the gills anymore, you're going to have a problem.
So it's kind of like there's saran wrap over their gills, essentially.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we don't know what the fate of the predators is, because they swim off.
Right. And it's kind of like, okay.
We don't know what happens to them.
So I was also reading too that they're kind of like, I don't want to say like a sack, but their skin is also really loose. I believe it was one of the many articles that you were quoted in that like a shark had bit down on it, and the hagfish was basically unscathed because it basically just slid into the other side of its skin and, released the slime, and the shark had the same kind of response of like, what the hell is this? No, thank you. And the hagfish was unscathed and just then went back about its business.
Yeah. So that was our Hagfish Houdini's paper that we published. And so we got a lot of mileage out of that one set of videos from that 2011 paper.
No kidding.
Because we saw for the first time the slime in action. We had hypothesized that that's what the slime was doing, was clogging gills, but we'd never really seen it in the wild before. But then the other thing that really struck us was hagfish is getting bitten by a shark.
Right.
And then it releases the slime. So the slime is not protecting
interesting.
From the bite at all. It's a reaction to the bite. So
that's interesting.
How does it survive the first bite?
Right.
Yeah.
And like if that was your arm in the shark's mouth, it would be shredded, right?
Right. It'd be, ground meat.
Yeah. And so what we figured out was that it's this loose body design that hagfishes have that had been described by other researchers. Andrew Clark and Ted Ueno had commented on this in their research. And the first thing we explored was, maybe just the skin is super puncture resistant. Maybe they've got amazing puncture resistant skin. And if that was the case, that would be really interesting, because that might have implications for, industrial uses and that sort of thing. And we disproved that idea, that hagfish skin is no better than other fish skin.
Huh.
So that's when we had to consider something weirder. And the weirder idea is that their body is encased in this loose skin, and there's basically all this extra space between their body and their skin. And so when a predator tooth punctures the skin, if it punctures the skin, in most cases it'll just kind of get wrapped by the skin, and then the body kind of squishes out of the way, and there's no damage at all.
No
but even if it does get through the skin, the body has room to kind of squidge out of the way.
Okay.
Oh, it's like armor.
Now that's kind of like a cool superpower. Like, okay, go ahead, bite me. I'm still here.
Yeah.
I'll just squish this way, and I'm squishing that way.
It's a pretty interesting lifestyle to have, like, a body design that allows you to survive the first bite from a shark.
Right, and then respond.
But then also, like, make sure the shark doesn't bite again.
Right.
Yeah.
With the slime.
You can see that video.
For like something to have like a response to use their defense mechanism like after the fact. I feel like most animals, there's usually like a deterrent. They'll, like skunks, they'll spray you before you even get close enough to them, or a tiger or bear will just swipe at you before you get to think of your next move. But right. is that how typical is that? I don't know if you're the perfect guy to ask, but how typical is that the defense mechanism is a response to an attack, not a deterrent or initial deterrent?
It's a really good question, because if they didn't have the loose body design early on in their evolution, then how did they survive long enough for the slime to even work? Is that your question? Yeah, that's a very, very good question. And I don't know. And we don't know exactly how the slime evolved.
Evolution.
We suspect that it evolved first in the skin, and we have some good reasons to think that. There's cells in the skin that resemble cells in the glands, and so we think that the skin might have invaginated and then formed this little discrete secretory structure.
Interesting.
Which allowed them to kind of store up mucus as opposed to just kind of ooze it.
Right,
which
constantly
is usually what skin does.
Coming out of their pores. So like unlike us, we're all constantly sweating, producing oil, whatever, whereas the hagfish, they keep it in like those little, I guess, secret compartments, and then something happens and it's released. Do I have that correct?
Exactly, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I'd like Dr. Fudge to talk about the cardiac function, circulation, and fluid balance, because that's very interesting.
Their metabolic function is also very fast. There's a lot of papers on that too, their metabolic function as well. I will let him speak. No kidding.
So some of this work is being done by a good friend of mine, Todd Gillis, who I shared a lab with at the University of Guelph, and I take full credit for him getting into hagfish. So he was working.
Dr. Fudge, you're the OG,
He was working. I don't take credit for his work. I'm just joking that I got him interested in hagfish. So he was doing a lot of amazing stuff on trout hearts and other fish hearts. Tuna hearts, and got interested in hagfish hearts, and has shown some amazing stuff, that hagfish hearts are able to withstand incredibly low oxygen for really long periods of time, like hours and hours and hours. The heart can just keep beating without, not just like low oxygen, but no oxygen.
Wow.
And so that raises all kinds of really interesting questions about how they're doing that metabolically. It shouldn't be possible with the kind of strategies that we normally think of. So he's working on that mystery as we speak. But if you think about their lifestyle, like, they burrow into mud. Mud typically has very low to no oxygen. They'll burrow into carcasses. So like, you're buried at sea, you're rotting away, and a hagfish comes along and thinks you're a good meal. The hagfish might actually burrow into the inside of your body and hang out there and sort of eat its way out.
Oh, that's fun. Okay.
And again, there's no oxygen in there, right? Because
you're dead.
Any oxygen there is being used up by bacteria, presumably. So they just crawl in to these places with no oxygen, and they're totally fine with it. We've been studying their burrowing behavior in the lab recently, and this is unpublished, but we've managed to get them to burrow into Jello or gelatin.
What?
Not like actual Jello,
like an agar gel kind of thing.
Well, we use unflavored gelatin.
No way.
And they go in there, and there's no oxygen in there, and they just hang out.
That's insane.
Ooh, I wonder.
Do they consume it at all?
Say that again?
They consume the Jello? Will they eat any of it? Or?
No, they're just people have used gelatin as a proxy for mud, to study the burrowing of invertebrates mostly.
Okay.
And so we borrowed this technique from someone named Kelly Dorgan, who's done a lot of work on burrowing in invertebrates, and she developed this technique of using gelatin made in seawater.
That's fantastic.
So they don't eat it; they just kind of burrow.
They just kind of move it out of the way. Kind of, here's my little den. That's so interesting. So speaking of the going into carcasses thing, which Sam, they are very vulture-esque in this sense because they go through the orifices. They won't necessarily like just burrow through the stomach. Kind of like vultures will go straight for the mouth, the eyes, the bum hole. And it seems like hagfish have that same MO, if I have that correct.
Yes. So
at the least resistance.
This gets back to Guy's question earlier about their kind of sensory world.
Right.
They're very tactile and they're very olfactory. So they're just constantly feeling their environment with their barbels and their head. And if they feel an opening, they'll explore it.
And will they make it to fit themselves? So like if it's a larger hagfish and let's say someone's mouth, dead body at the bottom of the ocean, open mouth, will they figure out a way to get in there?
Yeah. So there are, fishermen who despise hagfish because, gill net fishermen, especially, they'll put out their gill nets and then they'll retrieve them and then they'll see, I've got a big cod. And then they realize they've got the skin of a cod and a hagfish inside that has eaten all of the flesh.
Like Alien. Hagfish.
Yeah. Well,
that's pretty cool, though.
I know that is actually really cool.
On, which is, it says, they also have the highest blood volume of body mass of any chordate. Is that the name?
That's true.
And they have auxiliary hearts, so they have some auxiliary pumps throughout their body.
They do.
And
so would that be like our pulse, how like we have our, in our circulatory system, those auxiliary hearts? Was that similar to like our, if you got the pulse in your wrists, your feet?
No. So the pulse that you feel is a direct result of your heart beating. It's just sort of transmitting through your circulatory system.
So is this sort of like a horse has a little thing in their hoof to pump the blood back up? Is that similar to what they're describing here?
I'm not sure about the horse hoof thing, but there are other animals that have multiple hearts. We have two hearts essentially. If you think about it, we've got the left side, which pumps blood to our body, and then the right side, which pumps blood to our lungs.
Oh, that's a good point, Dr. Fudge.
Those are essentially two hearts. Hagfishes have a heart in their tail called the caudal heart. They've got a heart associated with their liver, which is the portal heart. They've got a systemic heart, which is the one that is homologous to the heart in fishes and in us. And I think there might be one more branchial heart associated with the gills. I have a hard time keeping
Now,
track of
are
them
they
all.
iron-based blood or like I know the horseshoe crab
Yes.
is copper-based, so they're iron-based like us?
Yeah, they've got hemoglobin.
Okay. Wow.
But back to the blood volume thing, they've got an interesting system. It's a low pressure system, and if you think about having multiple hearts, that kind of makes sense. If you got a kind of decentralized system for moving blood around, it's all operating at a low pressure, and you've got these tiny little weak hearts, but that does the job.
Right.
The other advantage of that is if your lifestyle involves getting bitten by sharks all the time, and you're getting punctured all the time, having a high pressure circulatory system doesn't make sense.
Right. Yeah, because you just everything
because
would
then
just
it's going to
squirt
start
out.
squirting out.
Exactly.
So one of the things is that they're able to tie themselves in a knot.
Oh, I was going to get to the knot thing
I was
too.
going to ask that too.
Yeah,
I
we
was
were.
going to
Yeah,
ask
that
about
was.
that too.
We all,
What
yes.
is
Tell
that
us
a
all about
defense thing? What
the
is the knot?
hagfish knots.
Yeah.
So they do that for multiple reasons. It's definitely a defense thing. Like if you grab a hagfish in a bucket and they can't get away, usually they can just get away because they're so dexterous and slippery. But if they think they can't, they'll tie themselves in a knot and then use that as leverage to slip away. They'll basically pass themselves through the knot.
Wow.
The other thing they use it for is to de-slime themselves. So occasionally they'll slime in a way, and normally they slime and they're out of there.
Right.
And hopefully the predator has still got a mouthful of slime. But occasionally they'll be startled and they'll slime and they'll be inside the slime, which is not great.
Ideal.
And so in that case, they'll tie their body in a knot and then they'll just continuously pass their body through the knot, and that they use the knot to basically wipe the slime off their body.
No kidding. That's
and
have you
it's
seen
highly
them do that?
effective.
Have you seen them do that, like in the lab lab setting, and then naturally? So, how many do you have? Any hagfish in your lab currently?
We do. We have 2 species of hagfish right now. We had 3 a couple of months ago.
Okay. Wow. And will they exhibit all these behaviors in the wild in the lab setting? Will they?
They will. I mean, that's always an important question. Is
right.
If you're studying behavior in the lab, how much can you generalize? Especially when it's an animal that's used to living at 3,000 feet or something.
Right. And you said that they do respond to light. So like if you were to shine a flashlight on them, would the response be like an agitated response, or more of like what is kind of like an inquisitive response, or is like turn the light off, or how do they respond?
So, and I've had an undergrad who was looking at this recently, and the reason we looked at it is because when you open the lid, we have a lid on top. They're just kept in the dark because where they live is almost no light. But when you open the lid and the lights are on in the aquatics room, one of the first things you see is they kind of react within a few seconds.
Okay.
Pacific hagfish like to kind of coil up in a donut shape on the bottom when they're relaxed, and one of the first things they do if they're in that posture is they kind of tighten the coil.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
I have no idea what the significance of that is, but
I have a crazy question for you. And don't. I'm just asking this because I'm curious. But do you folks in the research world give names to the specimens that you're housing?
Some people do. We don't with the hagfish. We use pit tags. So these are little microchips that allow us to keep track of individuals. So we basically just inject this tiny little pellet under their skin.
So like the microchip we were all given with the COVID vaccine. I'm totally kidding.
Exactly.
I'm totally kidding. We were not. We're not those crazy people, but you'd be like, well, you're not microchip, but we did microchip the hagfish though. So because that's actually something important to study.
Right, and when your pet gets a microchip, that's exactly the same thing.
Oh, okay. So interesting.
Okay, I have a question about this. So when you Google hagfish, one of the very first things that comes up is an article where in Oregon there was a huge, it was a huge accident, and and it mentions that these hagfish were on their way to South Korea as a delicacy.
Yeah, they're a delicacy in Asia. Unfortunately,
what?
I would not eat that personally.
What?
No thanks.
Gross. Why? What? How do you eat? How do you eat that?
They market them as being eels, Sam, and so like they'll even have like they'll make like hagfish products. It's like, oh, look at my fancy eel skinned wallet. And it's like, no, that's a hagfish wallet. Gross. And also, why would you do that?
But that was a thing in the U.S. as well.
Ew, was it?
So
Gross.
Guy will remember this. So when I was, in the 1980s, eel skin wallets were a thing. That was a fad.
Yes.
Why?
It's actually quite nice leather.
It is very nice. It's durable too.
Yeah, and they were marketed as eel skin because they knew nobody would buy a hagfish leather wallet. Right.
Oh, so that was a hagfish.
It was hagfish.
Yes, they're marketed. Yeah, they're marketed.
Their
check out my eel.
Skin is very durable. It was not.
They're getting bit by sharks all the time and being okay. So
there you go. And they're, a lot of them are burrowing into. You need tough skin to have a burrowing lifestyle.
So I suspect the hagfish, and I'm just projecting, they're not like going out looking for fights. They're probably just hanging out, trying to find something that just falls on their plate. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yes. So they have this. Their lifestyle for most of the species. I don't want to generalize too much because there are 87 species, is this kind of low energy lifestyle.
Okay.
Low metabolic rate, low cost, hang out maybe even in the sediment itself in a burrow with your head poking up. And when something yummy, comes by, that you smell, then come out and ramp up your metabolism and spend some energy eating that, but then go back into your burrow until the next thing. Now, that said, there are species that I'm sure are far more predatory than scavengers, and they're probably much more active. There's a species in New Zealand that hasn't really been described yet, but we've seen it on video, and it's actually ignoring the bait in that video I was telling you about. But you can see it in the background kind of sniffing out holes that correspond to other burrowing fish. And there's one amazing video of one of these hagfish going down one of those burrows and actually pulling a bony fish out of there.
No way.
Is that is that video on the Chapman website? Because I saw that video you were talking about with the New Zealand one with the 9.
You should be able to find that on YouTube.
Okay.
It's the first name, the first author's name is Zinsen.
Yeah.
So Vincent Zinsen.
Yeah. Now I saw that video on Chapman's website. Chapman.edu.
We linked to it.
A few.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it's a great demonstration of
it was really
sliming.
Video.
What is more viscous, fudge or hagfish slime? Sorry, I had to do it. I'm sorry.
Fudge.
But I'm not sorry.
Definitely fudge.
I asked what is more viscous.
Oh, that was okay.
It's a fair question.
Question.
I know.
You are Guy's daughter.
Okay, come on. His name is Dr. Fudge. He works with slime fish. I mean, come on. It's almost too perfect.
Yeah, and biomaterials. I realize how
it's very
ridiculous
fitting.
It is. Yeah.
It's very no, I love it. Yeah, and I'm sure you get that comment all the time, but I just had to do it.
Yeah, not as much as you would think.
Yeah.
Really, people.
I would comment on it if I saw that.
Because like as soon as when I was like looking you up, I was like, his name's Dr. Fudge, and he does biomaterials and like hagfish slime. I was like, that's amazing.
Mm-hmm. Oh, wait a minute.
Is it edible? Wait. I know it chokes.
Fudge of Chapman University has conducted research in this area. The hagfish
it's Dr. Fudge to you. It's Dr. Fudge to you. You don't know him like that.
Can be used as ultra strong fiber for clothing. Is this fiber stronger than silk, Dr. Fudge?
Stronger than silkworm silk, but not stronger than spider silk. But it's still really strong, like way stronger than nylon.
Really?
So can we make a bulletproof vest out of it? It's stronger than Kevlar. It's
not stronger than Kevlar, but it's tougher than Kevlar, if that makes any sense. So strength refers to the
so you're talking
force,
about like the abrasion resistance?
No. So strength refers to the force at which something breaks.
Okay.
Divided by the cross-sectional area. toughness has to do with how much energy it can absorb before it breaks. So
spider silk kind of like have the similar properties of Kevlar too? I mean, couldn't you make a bulletproof vest out of spider silk?
You could, yeah. And
Okay.
there's people working on making artificial spider silk, but it's been kind of modest progress for the last 20 years.
What industrial aspects or applications do you see for that? What is there anything happening right now with that material?
So the Navy is using that approach and trying to make materials out of hagfish slime proteins, and they're using a kind of recombinant DNA technology approach for that. So getting other organisms to express hagfish proteins and then isolating those proteins, purifying them, and then making materials out of that.
I didn't see the reference, but there is a reference to bulletproof vests for that.
For some reason, people get super excited about bulletproof vests.
Yeah, we really do. That's the reason why. Yeah.
And sutures too. It's like we have sutures that work just fine. I don't know why we need to reinvent
the wheel
new type of material to make sutures. But
what does their slime feel like? I'm assuming you've been slimed many a time. You've touched slime. You've had buckets of slime. Oh, how much slime can one fish produce in like one squeeze, if you will?
Yeah, so this is something I figured out when I was a PhD student. So a typical sliming event for a Pacific hagfish is about a liter. So,
wow.
Actually, a little under 900 milliliters.
Still,
that's nothing to scoff at, though.
So you grab them. They produce about a liter, and the way I did those experiments was basically in an aquarium. You grab them, and then I used a pasta colander to kind of gather it up and then measure it. Yeah.
Yes.
Gotta love science.
Now, it's a tricky measurement because if you lift hagfish slime out of water and hold it there, a lot of the water will run out. And that kind of makes sense if you think about how much actual material is holding that water together. It's very little material. So it's about 35 milligrams of mucus and thread protein for a liter of hagfish slime. So that's also known as parts per million, 35 parts per million. And somehow it's holding together that liter of water. So it's not binding all that water, it's kind of trapping it in channels. And that's why when you hang it out of water, some of that water drains out.
Interesting.
So about a liter per sliming event, but they have many, many glands, 150 glands. And a given sliming event is only a handful of glands. So it's...
Oh, okay.
I think I calculated 25 liters or so for a 150 gram hagfish, which is not very big.
Wow. So what if you were kind of, I know this sounds cruel, and I mean...
I just saw the video of the shark biting the hagfish.
Isn't that rad?
And then
really
there's
cool?
some stuff in the shark's mouth.
He's going... he starts going like that. It's so funny.
Yeah, that's probably what's suffocating
I feel bad,
shark.
but not really.
Yeah, I mean, that's nature.
It's like when you give peanut butter to your dog.
Yes.
Yeah, and they can't.
So, okay, so I know that, let's say it was ethical. I mean, obviously you wouldn't just take a fish and then like compress it like a can and squeeze it. But if you were to take an average Pacific hagfish and, if this wasn't unethical, to just kind of accordion squeeze it, how much slime do you think would come out of it? Activating every gland.
Well, so, I mean, we've estimated that as about 25 liters.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
25 liters. Wow.
That's a lot. Yeah. In a little hagfish.
Now, let me ask you a question about the slime, because I have kept fish. I've kept freshwater fish and saltwater fish.
He doesn't care about your fish.
And they talk... Be quiet. Let me ask my question. They talk... There's a slime on the fish that protects the fish.
Mm-hmm.
Is this slime very different from the hagfish, or is this a similar, just a giant quantity?
It's different.
Okay.
So and hagfishes have that slime layer on the outside of their body too. And most marine animals have some sort of mucus layer that protects them. from microbes and things like that. The defensive slime of hagfish is very different. And Elle earlier asked, like, what does it feel like? So
Yes.
Let me describe that. So when you lift, say, a liter of hagfish slime out of a bucket, it's shocking. Like, you've never felt anything like it, for one. And the reason it's shocking is that it's like you're holding a bag of water, but there's just no bag.
Oh, weird.
So the water is like it's supporting itself, but you can deform it as if it's just bulk water. So if you were to pour it into any container, it would just immediately conform to that container. And yet you can lift it up and it'll support its own weight. So it's that mismatch between the tensile strength and the sheer softness, is how we would say it in material science, that kind of blows our minds when we pick it up, because we've never seen a material that has that property before.
Solid and liquid at the same time.
Yeah, it's
pretty
like
much. Yeah.
breaking all these.
In layman's terms.
Yeah, and right, and
in dumb people terms.
That's
is amazing.
Insane. Yes, have you had physicists come in and be like, "We need some of your slime. We need to study this"? Is that
well? So yeah, I mean, I've been fortunate that I've collaborated with some very smart people who work with polymeric materials. So Randy Ewalt, who's now at University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign, has worked with me for many years now, and he has fancy devices that will measure the material properties of slime. He was the first one to measure the elastic modulus of hagfish slime.
What does that mean?
So the elastic modulus is how stiff the material is, right?
Okay.
And something like gelatin or Jello has an elastic modulus that's in the kilopascals range. Hagfish slime has an elastic modulus that's less than a pascal, so it's probably 4 orders of magnitude softer than Jello, if you can even imagine that. So 1/10,000th the stiffness of Jello.
So if you had to forecast and project, do you think that there are other future uses of the slime that we haven't thought about yet?
You are really just trying to exploit this
coming
fish
over the horizon?
Yes, I do. I just had a meeting yesterday with a multinational corporation who I can't name.
Don't name.
And we've got another grant that we're writing for something that we're super excited about. So, yes.
Well, for this somewhat quite unknown fish, he's got a lot of interesting properties that who knows what.
We're all fans. We're in the Hagfish fan club for sure.
They're pretty amazing.
Yeah,
they are.
I can't wait to see
I think you made a good choice in going down the hagfish route instead of the what was it, jellyfish route?
Squid.
Yeah, I have El Nino to thank.
Yes.
Yeah.
We already had a squid guy, so you would have been useless for us, Dr. Fudge. So thank you for going.
You already did squid?
We did the Humboldt squid.
Oh, did you have Professor Gilly?
No, we had Dr. Ben Buford, who actually studied under him.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
And I think that happened to him one year. It was an El Nino year, and he didn't have anything to do.
There you go.
Something like that.
All right. Well, we better let Dr.
So when you can share
Fudge.
your cool top secret stuff, please let us know. We will be in touch. Be like, hey, I can share some more. Can you tell Mom to not clang? Oh my God.
It's the studio's not very soundproof, Dr. Fudge.
Oh God, it's always something with that one. Apologies, Dr. Fudge.
It's okay.
Oh well, look who's talking. You got that animal barking.
Quite.
All right,
you.
let's let Dr. Fudge.
When you've got more cool research, we would love to have you back on if you want to come on our kooky show.
Yeah.
You were fantastic. I mean, just
that was great.
The knowledge you possess and the way you presented it was just, I mean, you've blown my mind like 50 million times.
You know what? We probably need to do some more research on hagfish so that when he comes back,
no, you need to do research. Sam and I had good questions. We weren't the ones reading Wikipedia to the doctor.
Well,
you don't tip me off, so I'm scrambling. I'm 3 steps behind you guys.
Okay, well, when the doctor
watch you struggle, it's good.
When Dr.
it
Fudge
makes
comes
it
back,
fresh.
can we come see your lab? Is that like
Sure, yeah.
Oh, sick. We're all vaccinated with our microchips.
Sure,
But
yeah, you can come visit. You can visit the hagfish. Maybe
yes,
even get slimed if
Oh, that would be
Okay.
awesome. Actually,
I got to plan a trip after I'm done with school.
I know. Yes, Sam. We have
coming.
so many. We have the shark. Do you know Dr. Lowe from the Shark Lab at Long Beach?
I do. Yeah.
Yes, we had Dr.
Yeah,
Lowe on. We've got a little tour we got to do. We have to do Shark Lab. We got to come see you.
He's very knowledgeable. We enjoyed speaking with him as much as we enjoyed speaking with you guys. And
no, he's a great
feel
guy.
honored that you would even give us some of your time because
yes, thank you
we're
very
pretty
much
lowbrow. But we do have a mass appeal to
Australians,
common folks that think fish are fish.
In Australia?
Yes, we are.
Yeah, we have a big
Australian following.
We do have. We've had the equivalent of. We had a member of the Australian Parliament come on the show, which is the equivalent of a senator.
How did that happen? What?
Hey, we're big time in
they like
Australia.
animals.
You're big in Australia.
Yeah, we're a big deal in Australia. Okay, Dr. Fudge. All right, so we're helping you out here. Okay.
we can't make a dent in California, but we're big down under.
Yeah.
Do you know how that happened?
No idea. We just. We did one episode with a First Nations elder, and then it just kind of ballooned from there, and we really picked up. We've had other. Can you tell her to stop?
I'm lowering the gain on the mic.
We've had other Australian like animal organizations reach out to us about like, hey, we'd love to come on your show. We'd love to talk to you guys. And it's like, okay, and even on our Instagram, it's like probably 90% Australians.
Kangaroo.
Wow.
Was that guy? What's the one that looks like the animals all bolted together? Come on.
What are you talking about?
I
don't know what he's saying.
The expert. Thank you. Thank you.
We had platypus guy.
He's going to be the guy interpreter for us.
Right. I know. Yeah. You should add that to your resume. Interpreter for the elderly.
I think Australians love their animals. That might be part of it.
The ones that do, yes. The ones that don't are problematic. But the Aussies that are big into it, their passion is unmatched anywhere else in the world. Which is fantastic because they make great guests. But yeah, for whatever reason we've had people like think we're an Australian show actually, and then I'm telling them like, oh, we're in California, well, Sam's in North Carolina, but like we have some time conversion to do with like, oh, we thought you guys were in Australia. It's like, surprise, no.
But you don't have Australian accents,
well, right? Or they hear us talk, and then and I'm sure the way we spell is a giveaway. But yeah, it's very interesting. But it's been a fun journey, that's for sure. So
great. Well, thank you for having me on.
Thank you very much.
Coming, Dr. Fudge. We will definitely please keep in touch with your research, and when we do our our marine bio tour of Southern California, you will be on the list.
Come visit us.
Yes.
All right.
Thank you so much, Dr. Fudge.
Okay. I gotta go.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now.
Bye.